Hello and welcome to ESOT's Transplant Live platform. If you are a transplantation professional anywhere in the world looking for high quality education, you've come to the right place. Because ESOT aims to inspire, connect and innovate the global transplantation community. We do so by creating the most attractive educational content. Through face-to-face meetings like the ESOT 2019 Congress right here in Copenhagen, in print and through this online platform that you have already discovered. And right now you are participating in something truly unique in the transplantation community because we will be live for 24 hours during the 4 days of the ESOT 2019 Congress in Copenhagen. And what can you expect? Well, obviously we take you live into the halls where the sessions are taking place, giving you the latest insights in the field of transplantation. We will also show you recordings of other sessions that are going on in parallel. We'll show you interviews and reports with some of the key thought leaders and opinionators that walk around in this Congress. And in between, we'll show you some great examples of the education that you can find in the Transplant Live platform and some of the best sessions of the Congress in Barcelona 2 years ago. So don't be selfish and share the URL esottransplantlive.org with all your friends and colleagues and tell them why you decided to sign up. And then just keep your browser open, you start once, stay tuned because it's happening right now. Hello and welcome here for the first official broadcast from the ESOT 2019 Congress in Copenhagen. Copenhagen, the city of creativity. Copenhagen, the city of bicycles. So that's why I'm honored to be on a bike ride through Copenhagen together with Eske Willershev, the director of the Center for Geogenetics of the University of Copenhagen, and one of our key speakers in the plenary session that's about to start in 25 minutes. Eske? Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad you're joining me for this bike ride right before you have to go on stage.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of talk about genetics. Kind of strange in a transplantation congress. What is your relation with the field of transplantation?
I don't have much knowledge about that field, to be honest. I mean, I'm doing human evolution and human history, but I think what they're interested here is to kind of take up a discussion whether we are at a stage now where we can start influencing our own evolution as humans and maybe even take these surgeons out of their work by, doing the cuttings in the DNA rather than, in the body itself.
So you're saying if we understand the genetics well enough?
Then, yes, exactly. So the idea, there's new technologies coming out, that can kind of go in and edit in the genome itself. And I guess what they want to discuss is, well, if these technologies becomes advanced enough, does that mean we can actually take care of, any possible diseases and future problems by editing in the genome just when you have an embryo instead? So
already?
Yeah, already.
Right in the pre-birth phase?
Yeah, exactly. So, but my area is the evolution. Mine is the natural. How did it happen naturally, right? Yeah. And the question is, then can we turn that into, you can say, some kind of artificial way of controlling our own destiny as humans?
Exactly. So I guess that first starts with understanding the past. That is what you are a world-renowned expert in.
Yeah.
In terms of evolution, I only know the very simple Darwin model that thinks the survival of the fittest. Why did we develop all these diseases, you think? Is there an evolutionary benefit of that?
Well, it's a very good question, actually. I mean, in some cases, there might be, both some positive things, but also some negative things by getting a certain substitution. And it's really in change in the genome, and it's really on balance. How negative is it versus how positive is it, right? Whether it's there or not. And then many diseases are very complex. I mean, it involves thousands of regions in the genome where each small change only are contributing very little to the disease itself. So therefore, you can say there's not a huge pressure to remove, the individual parts, right? And therefore they can still, so to speak, exist. So, but this is, a lot of the very bad ones have been
identified?
Constantly, they have been identified.
Because on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being understanding nothing of the genome and 10 being able to fully engineer it, where would you say we are right now?
There's quite some way still.
Yeah.
I mean, I must say, there is, because, I mean, some of the diseases are very simple. And those, in principle, I think we would be very soon in a stage where you could actually go in and editing them. But for most of them, they're very complex,
Exactly. Are they monocausal? Is it fixing one gene and you're there or not?
Exactly. So in some cases, yes. But in most cases, it's complex diseases where it's, thousands of genetic variants that are involved. And they are, of course, I mean, do you remove some of those? What is actually happening? They're involved in many different things. So there's a while before we can, take care of things like type 2 diabetes and mental disorders and things like that.
Exactly. So it's an interesting path to go down to, but
I think
we're still
so.
at the beginning.
We are at the beginning, but I would say, I mean, if you compare to where we were just 10 years ago, I mean, we have moved massively forward, right? So it's a development that is going very fast. So I think I wouldn't be totally surprised then in 20 years, 30 years maybe, that we would be at that stage,
Because you study the history of the genome and how it has developed. What is, to you personally, one of the most surprising things you've discovered there?
I think there's many surprising things, but I think one of them is how much our genetic makeup has been influenced by people migrating and meeting each other, separating, meeting again, over the course of history. So when I was in school, I learned, Eske, you are deriving directly from the Stone Age man in Denmark, and was first in the 1960s we got any migration into Denmark. But we can see that as far as back we go, there has been massive migrations forming. We are formed in Europe, we are formed by migrations of people, right? So the whole way we looked at history and looked at each other, I mean, it's completely changed.
Exactly, so that's even probably making it more complex because of all the blends and all the different meanings. Very interesting. Well, thank you for this short bike ride here with me in the studio. Let me invite all our viewers on YouTube and Facebook that if you want to see the keynote of Eske Willerslev in the main hall today, and you should know you're actually one of the, I read in your bio, the biggest keynote speaker in Denmark. What an honor. Wow. So if you want to be a witness of that, now is the time to hop over to ESOTTransplantLive.org, sign in and be able to follow the entire Congress for 24 hours a day online. Eske, thank you very much. Please have a great session we'll be following. And in the meantime, we're going to look at something special that happened here yesterday. Because ESOT is all about innovation, not only about genetics, machines, but also about developing new relations. And one of the beautiful things that happened here yesterday is that actually representatives of patients' organizations came to the ESOT Congress and met up with the healthcare professionals. And we spoke with David Paredes about this meeting.
We have had today a wonderful meeting with the patient organizations, all together to create a bridge between ESOT, patients, and health professionals. This meeting is needed because we need to create a platform for the patients that they can find a place to represent their voice and to start to communicate with us as health professionals and to start to interact all together for a better success of their treatment. They should become more self-confident on being responsible for their own care and their own treatment, but as well to help to other patients to be involved in all the process. The benefit for health professionals, there is a lot because we need to start thinking more on patients as they have their ownership of their own health. And the voice from the patients is essential for us because when we do research, when we do any clinical trial, or where we would like to develop a new tool for transplantation, we always need to the recipients of the organs that we are going to transplant. And this is the need that we have to start discussing and involve them inside our organization.
This meeting is important. It's probably the first time it's ever been done this way, but it's a really good idea to get the patient associations together to talk about how transplantation can be improved, but how the patient view on that can work with the professional view to come up with something maybe new, something better to improve transplantation and outcomes for the future.
We have discussed many different relevant things today about organ transplant, or about waiting lists, and about diseases in many different ways. So I'm happy to be here.
I think the most important takeaway from this meeting so far has been very much about patient involvement and patient empowerment, and that actually, yes, there's quite a lot we can do as patients, but I think the support of our transplant teams, so the nurses as well as the surgeons, to learn about what we can expect if we have a transplant, and also what the future might mean to us. So whether it's psychosocial support or whether it's the medical outcomes, those things are equally important to patients, and being able to have surgeons work together with us to share those views has been very revealing.
The most important thing is that in different countries there are different practices. And the aim of today is to make an inventarization of that, and hopefully that's the first step to come to a more equal system throughout Europe.
The three main results of the meeting are: we have created a platform, a network of people, patient associations, health professionals, and all together we have more things in common between all the organ recipients than differences. The second point is that we need to create a common voice to be represented inside the European Commission, inside all the competent authorities, to the health professionals and to the scientific community, to give them voice to be able to talk. And as well as health professionals, we need to have a platform to interact with them in a platform that protect their rights and facilitate the communication with them.
As said, the ESOT Congress is all about connecting people, here physically in Copenhagen. But a lot of transplantation professionals are also connected online, and they're just officially named the Transplantation Twitterati. And I'm now joined by Maria Irene Bellini, by Lady Maria on Twitter, you must follow her, Frank Door, Adnan Sharif and Michael Neves. And let's explore, Maria, what brings you to Copenhagen? Couldn't you just joined us online here today?
Well, I mean, I produce also the content for the online, so if I'm not here, I can't really, show what is being discussed at this wonderful conference. So, of course, I enjoy networking with colleagues in person, but I also want to get the opportunity to create a new possible research or a new collaboration, so I need to be here.
Exactly, you'll be here, you'll be tweeting live from the Congress.
Definitely.
Where can people follow you if they go on Twitter?
So the official hashtag for the conference is ESOT 2019, so of course follow that. But my personal account is at mirenebellini1. And also you should focus ESOT for EDO, for education, so hashtag ESOT for education. And then, follow Transplant International, because I'm also the social media for Transplant International. So you can get in touch with me.
Lots of stuff to do.
Or Ekita Transplant. I'm also administrating that.
If you're interested in kidney, yes.
You can definitely catch up with me. Thanks.
Pass them on. Maria, how long have you been on Twitter?
Oh gosh, for 1 year and a half.
1 year and a half now?
Yeah, since Gasparis.
And did you still remember what made you decide to actually make an account and join the Transplantation Twitterati?
Well, I was on Gasparis course, and Frank Door hosted it. So I decided to network with colleagues, share knowledge, share what's going on the course, and improve it. And it was an incredible way to connect with other people, or like to know what's going on the other congresses at the same time, and also highlight heart transplantation in Russia, which is not everybody knowing and what's going on.
So you started 1.5 years ago, and you're still on it. You enjoy it.
Frank Dorr.
Frank Dorr, well, we'll get to him in a minute. What do you plan to do with your account this week? Why should people follow you here in the Congress?
Highlight heart transplantation on this course, and what's going on here, also exercise and complications, and what's going on with the devices, and connect with other peers here.
All right, sounds great. Well, just shout it out one more time. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Lady Maria ADR, like doctor.
At Lady Maria ADR.
Yeah.
Well, pass the mic to your inspirator, Frank Dorr. Great to have you here as well.
Hi, Gerrit.
Frank, how long have you been active on social media?
I'm afraid it's going to be 10 years.
10th anniversary this year.
Yeah. Very enthusiastic, obviously. In the beginning, being laughed at, to be honest, because many people don't see the value of, and I think lots of people recognize that, don't see the value of social media. And I think it's a great opportunity to connect, to establish friendships with people that you don't know, and if you then meet them in real life, you already are much more connected than normally. So I can only recommend it, to share knowledge, to share things that you would otherwise not see. And I'm always one of the first ones seeing things because of social media.
Exactly, so you're on top of the news.
Exactly.
But I guess, Frank, a lot of people are wondering, you are a successful surgeon, you are publishing papers, you're doing research.
Yeah.
Where do you find the time
in the coffee room of
life?
Theaters, because
exactly.
we always have to wait when our patient is going to sleep, or in the middle of the night waiting for an organ to arrive, or just in the elevator. Any spare moments you can use, you can actually connect and use it to establish friendships.
So you would actually say that using Twitter or social media is ideal for transplantation professionals on call?
Absolutely.
You're sitting there hanging out anyway.
Absolutely.
Is that your experience too, Adnan?
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm as active on Twitter as Frank is. And I've been.
How long have you been?
So I've been on for about 3 years or so. And it's true, as as Frank and the others have said, it's a great opportunity to kind of build links and build collaborations, to share work, and just sometimes get a snapshot opinion as well. And you can suddenly just put a question out there and ask your colleagues, "Oh, what would you do in this situation?" Or "Have you ever come across this?" And it's a great way to kind of form friendships and networks.
Exactly. And what social media platforms do you actively use?
So, I mean, Twitter's, obviously what you've been using has been the main go-to thing. And certainly from a professional point of view, I mean, Twitter is really what I use.
And do you ever also get in touch with patients, I wonder? Because it's a great tool for amongst professionals, but it's public. So how is that dynamic?
It is public. I know some of my patients do follow me, and sometimes it's a great way just to disseminate information now as well. Just messages that you want, the lay public about organ donation or just research findings, especially when our patients have been involved. It's a great way to get your message out, not just amongst professionals, but just the general population as well.
Great. Well, pass the mic on to Miguel. Miguel, you have been the social media manager for ESOT in the past few months, especially around this Congress. What have you been doing to drive people to Copenhagen?
That's a good question. I've been working with ESOT for over a year now and really just building up to the Congress. So it's been fascinating to watch all of you and the conversations that you find interesting, what bubbles up through Twitter and the other social media channels. But Twitter's really been the one that you feel the energy on. When something really is popular or when there's an important issue, Twitter is the one that really kind of shines. So it's been really fascinating to watch that. I work on social media on other events, so I'm more of the event person for social media, but it's really interesting to have that insight through to transplantation and to this specific subject. And now bringing it all together at the Congress, the energy and meeting people face to face, that for me is really special.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that you were able to gather the transplantation Twitterati kind of shows that you've been doing a good job. Let's invite all the viewers who are joining us right now, either on Facebook or YouTube. If you are watching from anywhere in the world, I guess grab that smartphone out of your pocket, send us a photo, hashtag ESOT 2019, and let us know where you are watching from.
Live as well.
Hashtag Transplant Live, of course, as well, if you specifically want to tune into the broadcast. Because we're live about 3 times a day And we are live for 24 hours a day on ESOT Transplant Live, the educational platform from ESOT. Hop over there and you'll be able to join us right now for the plenary opening, which is going to start in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to send you off to go there, and I'm going to invite you to stay with me right here, because earlier this morning I did the same bike ride with the current ESOT president, Stephane Schneeberger, who's going to resign in 2 days. So, in 2 days. So I talked with him about his legacy and how he reflects on his last 2 years as ESOT president. Hi and welcome here in Copenhagen, where I just stepped on our bikes for a bike ride with ESOT's president, Stephane Schneeberger. Stephane, good morning.
Hi, Gerrit.
It's Sunday morning. We're ready, getting ready for the ESOT Congress 2019 here in Copenhagen. I think if people Google your name, they find a video where you were 24 hours installed at the ESOT president in Barcelona, where we chatted. Maybe if they Google again in the future, they find this video, 48 hours before you step down. How do you look back on these past 2 years?
Well, Gerrit, it certainly was a very eventful time. Those 2 years, when I was looking into going into presidency, I thought this is all about representing the organization and smiling and shaking hands. But then it turned out that it wouldn't be like that, because the field is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. You could also say that it's actually turning upside down. With the dynamics of those changes, we had to respond also as a field and as an organization to a field that on one side is matured, with matured products, but with new trouble, with new problems, that sort of a new generation and new technologies are coming to the market. So you have both, like a very matured part of
and then you talk
discipline.
about the drug side of the market.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also almost a startup sense and feeling, and a group of people and companies coming to the discipline, which makes it a very interesting but also very challenging mix. So as an organization, we have to adopt very rapidly to these changing circumstances.
What kind of measures did you take to accommodate for that with ESOT?
Well, for us, basically, it is moving from a pure marketing perspective to a research and developing perspective. So as an association, we have to support the R&D aspect, development aspects of new technologies and new ideas that come to the field of transplantation only slowly, sometimes in a preclinical state. So for an organization like ESOT, that means changing the products that we offer, changing also the business model, basically. And that all had to happen over a short period of time, because these changes, they happen very rapidly. Yeah. So marketing capital is decreasing not just by 20%, but we're talking 50, 70%. Yeah. So you have to find solutions, and they have to find them fast. Yes. While you keep the organization running, and everything that is established has to go on.
Exactly. And what is something you're really proud of when you think about that? What have you done to really start to change direction?
I think if we succeeded with this, it is implemented possibly also and already in this Congress. I think the spirit, the content, and the circumstances and the format of this meeting has already adopted to the changing needs. And if that was successful, I think it should be displayed at this Congress. Although I didn't do the Congress, I hope that we created the spirit and we enabled for this to happen here.
So for those online viewers who are not with us in Copenhagen, where would they have found it in this Congress?
Well, I think it's fair to say that it's each and everywhere. I just started participating in one of the specialty update symposia. Yeah. And it's already all about the new technologies and how they are and how they will be implemented into the field. So it is happening from minute one. And if you look at the program, it's actually implemented in each and every corner. So it's harder to avoid these new subjects rather than to find them.
Exactly. So it's everywhere. And when you look forward, because you step down as president, but obviously you stay active in the field of transplantation, how do you see the future, near future, changing? What does it mean, all these new technologies, these startups? What does it mean for your work as a transplantation surgeon in your case?
Well, it does, and it will further impact on our everyday life. our life as transplant physicians, as transplant surgeons, has already changed dramatically. For example, we almost avoid nighttime procedures now, something that was unthinkable up until just a few years ago. Now we're discussing organ reconditioning centers, places where you would take organs to, they would be preserved, they possibly would be reconditioned, and then you do the transplant maybe a day later, maybe a week later. And with that, a whole new discipline in medicine is generated. And that is what's so exciting about transplantation. If you take a bird's eye view on the field, it emerged in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There was a huge excitement, and it revolutionized medicine in a certain aspect. And in reality, what happened then, it became more a matured field with less innovation. For the last 15, 20 years, it was going well. The outcome was extremely good.
Yeah.
And everybody was kind of satisfied with that. So there was no push for innovation. Now, with the changing circumstances, there is another need for innovation and new technologies with the older donors, with the DCD donors, and that triggered new technologies. And eventually, these new technologies, they open up a new era in medicine, and that is the treatment of organs in addition to treating patients.
Kind of in a new in-between phase, basically.
Absolutely.
There's a whole new phase when the organ is ex vivo and you can do all these kind of things with it.
And it's easy to predict that we will see hospitals or centers that would treat and focus on the treatment of organs and not just patients. So this is a reality that is growing already. And this will give transplantation, once again, the chance to change medicine, change an aspect of medicine. So I see this as the biggest chance in transplant medicine ever since I entered the field.
Wow, interesting, and a great outlook also. Now, when you step down, you might get some more time back. What will you do with that new acquired time?
I'll do some more bike riding.
Exactly, yeah. Well, for those of you who follow Stephane on Instagram, it's a real recommendation. There's some awesome biking in the Austrian mountain going on there. What else? What else can we expect from you in the field of transplantation?
Well, I'm also involved in our own center, of course, in Innsbruck. So the focus now is on establishing new technologies, innovative medicine back in our home center. And beyond, probably, to establish a network, international collaborations, and help advancing the field. We want to generate our own organ reconditioning center. So that certainly will be a focus. And I believe with these new technologies, a lot of opportunities will arise. New companies will be formed, and we'll see, maybe one day, I'll be involved in one of these companies.
Exactly. Well, just to round this bike ride up, I think it's a nice shout out talking about new companies evolving. Tuesday night, we have a very special meeting. How do you describe it to other people?
Well, that Stanford session, as we call it, I think should generate and build on the spirit of this startup phase, this startup element that we just talked about. Now there's a new discipline. There is new possibilities that are being addressed, not by just the specialists in the field, but also by the industry. Bringing the two together is something we want to achieve at this session. So this is a joint effort with Stanford, who has a spirit and a background and a lot of knowledge on startup industry.
It's in the heart of Silicon Valley,
it
right?
Is.
So that's where all the startup magic is happening.
And that's the spirit and that's the idea of this session. Bringing that here in a bidirectional interaction with Copenhagen, with our association.
Very exciting. Now, if you look at this and you are here in Copenhagen, make sure you join us. If you look at this later in recording, the Stanford session has also been recorded and broadcasted, so keep on watching on the internet. Stephane, congratulations on these 2 years, on your presidency, on your legacy. And we're looking forward to have an awesome time with you here in Copenhagen. And we'll be hearing more of you in the future.
Thank you, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Let's stop the bikes. Hello and welcome back here live in the ESOT Transplant Live studio, where we now are about to start the first plenary session of the ESOT 2019 Congress in Copenhagen. If you are currently still watching, either on Facebook or on YouTube, now is the time to make sure you join us inside the main hall A1 by switching over to our Transplant Live platform. And you do that by following the URL esottransplantlive.org. If you haven't subscribed to that platform, you're required to pay a small fee that gives you full access year-round to all the online available resources. You can either follow the online courses and actually get your CMA, your permanent education credits for that, or you can browse through the extensive library of all the Congress sessions, both here in Copenhagen, in Barcelona and Brussels, and everything that's ever been recorded to make sure that your knowledge and your insight about the field of transplantation is always up to par. Well, we are live, so anytime during the broadcast you can send in your questions. We're soon going to switch off for this one, but we'll be back multiple times out of this little studio during the Congress in Copenhagen. During the breakfast tomorrow here in Copenhagen, 8:45, join us again, Facebook and YouTube. During the coffee break, or during the tea break in the afternoon. And if you still haven't done so, then on Tuesday we'll be back a few times. And on Tuesday evening, Copenhagen time, there's something very special. Because as the theme of this Copenhagen Congress is inspiring minds driving progress. On the third day of this Congress, we're going to connect the most inspiring minds in transplantation here in Copenhagen with the incredible driving force of progress in Silicon Valley. On that evening, we have a co-located event at Stanford University School of Medicine with speakers in Stanford, speakers in Copenhagen, virtually connected, and you as an online participant can be part of that as well. So make sure you mark that in your calendar. Now, if you join us in the early morning in the United States, stay tuned as well, because we are live for 24 hours. So if you feel you've missed one of the sessions here in Copenhagen, we'll give it a rerun throughout our night, your day, so you'll be able to follow as well. And if you find this broadcast later in the Far East, or you have friends or colleagues in the Far East, send them through the URL esottransplantlive.org as well, because through the night, as I said, we rerun the sessions. Behind me, or actually in front of me, room A1 is filling up for the first plenary session called Be Inspired, Be Driven. And it's chaired by the two chairmen of this Copenhagen Congress, Finn Gustafsson and Alan Rasmussen. And earlier this year, I made a little recording with them about what this session is all about. Let's have a look.
The plenary one is about the current status about genomics and how we can use it in detection and treatment of diseases. And I was so lucky that one of the very, very famous and fantastic researchers we have in Copenhagen, Eske Willerslev, has agreed to be the key person in the plenary. We decided that it should be about the evolution of diseases. So the question to him was that why do we actually still have genes causing diseases? They should have vanished due to evolution. And he could explain why we still have those genes. For instance, some genes causing diseases now made people resistant to plague. Nowadays, we have the possibility to do something about the genes when they are discovered. We have the CRISPR technique and we have other techniques. The question to him was to say, how are we going to handle this? When can you tell us exactly what kind of diseases we will have if we have this or that gene? And he said within 10 years, he will probably be able, scientists like him will be able to map those genes. Then we have the techniques to do something about it. So the plenary one will be Eske Willerslev telling a lot about the possibilities to identify these genes causing diseases. There will be the next will be a researcher. He knows a lot about the CRISPR techniques and will tell us about the techniques we can use to get rid of those genes. And then the third one will be a biologist and a philosopher in the same time. Very, very nice. Also a Dane who's actually in the States. He's a professor both in California and in Chicago, and he will come and ask all those questions you will ask from an ethical point of view. He will be there at the end to challenge the first two, saying, if you do this or that, what can actually happen? And what are the ethics in all those questions? And I'm very much excited and looking forward to that session.
So as you can see, a very exciting session indeed. And obviously, as you have been to some ESOT congresses in the past, you always know that it kicks off with a spectacular opening. Well, I've seen some of the rehearsals. That is something you definitely want to be part of. And then also the three very, very unique keynote speakers diving into the opportunities of the genome editing is very interesting to understand because it might really radically transform the field of transplantation, both the potential with organs and donors, but also provide an entire different way to prevent even diseases in the future. So we're coming to the end of this little pre-broadcast here in the studio. If you haven't done so by now, make sure you switch over to esottransplantlive.org. If you don't understand that link very well, click in the description below. I pasted the link right there. And also, if you are watching this video in recording, you can still tune in because we'll be rerunning the plenary session throughout the night and later in the Congress, because we will be live for 24 hours anywhere this week where you think, what could be going on in Copenhagen? There's just one place to go, esottransplantlive.org. And I just kindly invite you to join me in the plenary session number 1 for the next 2 hours, or join me back here on Facebook or YouTube tomorrow, Tuesday or Wednesday for an early morning breakfast session or a coffee break session. So we'll have some of the speakers pulled out of the sessions. We'll have exclusive interviews with them. We'll go on the bikes with them and have an interesting chat. And throughout, we'll show you different reports of all the different stuff going on. I look to the far distance to room A1, where the last people are getting their seats. They are walking in. The doors are slowly getting closed. So with that, I'm going to send you into room A1. I'm going to thank you here from our little side studio. I'm looking forward to see you again either tomorrow, Tuesday or Wednesday, live on Facebook or throughout on esottransplantlive.org.